Hello, everybody. It's Lisa Khera from Inbalance Pilates. Thanks so much for joining us today. Karen Monet and I are back with another episode of Concussions Anonymous. So thanks so much for being here. Remember to like and share this out if you know anyone that needs this information. Today we're talking about Zoom fatigue and concussions and persistent post-concussion. And so, yeah, remember, if you're watching on YouTube, definitely subscribe to our channel. And if you're watching here on Facebook, let us know if you're watching live or if you are catching the replay. So hi, Karen. It's so nice to see you. I wish we could hug in person. We're used to doing our interviews in person. So this is a little bit different, but at least doable with technology these days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how have you been?
Well, it's been a very interesting for us as well as mostly everybody. The clinic itself had to shut down obviously for a while, and I moved all of the administration and phone services and application process, all the work moved home. But we're open up again, so I started doing assessments again last week back at the clinic, with all the safety precautions and getting all that stuff in order so that we follow the rules and keep everybody safe. But finally, we're able to see people back in the clinic. Still not socially, and our filming will have to stay like this for a little bit, but it's good to be back.
Exactly. It's good to be back and getting this information out and yeah, just continuing to serve and send out some resources to people. So remember, on our channel, you can always go back. We have several different episodes, based on visual stress and different treatments and practitioners and therapies that you can use, things that have worked for myself as someone that had a concussion. I've taught Pilates for 20 years. And after having a concussion, definitely getting these resources out is so helpful. And turning to someone like Karen with Opticom and the services there, there's so much to help out. And especially with what we're talking about today, Zoom fatigue. And nowadays, so many people have had to pivot, as the big word is, and, move online, work from home. Everyone's having to do meetings and video calls and telephone calls. So if you're someone that, maybe just headed back to some modified duties or part-time work, and you were just getting into the groove of that, but then suddenly, you're adding these video calls and things that are just taking up so much more energy and resources, having ways to ease that pain and discomfort of some of the symptoms you might be exacerbating because of the Zoom fatigue and screen fatigue. We just want to make sure you have access to more info that could definitely help.
Yeah, one of the things as you're talking, I'm thinking about new things that I'd like to say is when our clients with concussions, they're often off work for a while and they're at home and they're able to rest their eyes and they're not in that work environment. They're not in the fluorescent lights and they're not on their computers as much. As soon as they go back to work, and this is pre-COVID, but as soon as they go back to the office, they'd have setbacks. And the reasons for that were very often because they were on their computers again more often, but they were also in that fluorescent lit work environment with the busy action people all around them. So this is like we brought that trigger home to where people were able to spend less screen time and relax and be in natural light more often. And now they're getting too much screen time, too much near time. So like this distance, and too much indoor time. So those are three big things that are sort of adding up to making, it's not just Zoom fatigue, it's all of these things coming together in the home, non-relaxing, non-natural environment that are causing a lot of problems. But yes, Zoom fatigue has a name. It's too bad for the company Zoom because it's not a popular thing. But it's one of those things where we're saying, did you Zoom with anyone today? Whether you were on Zoom or not. So Zoom fatigue, they're
Yeah.
now branded, but we all know Zoom and we're on Zoom today. So it works really well. This is our first attempt at a Zoom meeting. So bear with us. It's tough sometimes to figure out all the technology. And I think that's another thing that makes it really difficult for people with concussions is the technology, trying to figure out. I mean, I have trouble in a non-concussed brain figuring out technology. And I was telling my son yesterday, I have like a fear, I have a phobia of technology and messing up and having it not work. So I told
Mm-hmm.
a few minutes ago, I'm outside my comfort zone being here, but that's okay. We're here to help those who are having difficulties with.
Well, I'm gladly here to always help push you out of your comfort zone, my friend.
Thank you
So,
so much. Uh, I guess what I'd like to say too is I have just finished filming a video called, what's it called? Brain Injury in the Virtual World. And that's that whole idea of having a brain injury and having to work online with computers and how much difficulty it is, why it affects the brain the way it does to be on screens, and then the kinds of things that people can do about it. So we'll talk a little bit about here today. The video itself is going to be released by Brain Injury Canada, we hope within the next couple of weeks. We're still in the final editing stages of it. But to recap, and that's what we'll do here today, is what can you do to help reduce your screen intolerance, which is the formal word for Zoom fatigue. But the Zoom fatigue is really something. It does tire your brain. Our brains don't operate well when we can't see the full body language of somebody. So looking at a screen full of little faces, it's very hard for our brain to absorb and read the signals coming from people when it's like that. So it's working extra hard to focus. And that focusing, we're not using our other senses that we would otherwise use in a formal one-on-one meeting. And so our brain is working extra hard, which leads to even a faster fatigue when you're working on screens. How, you have courses where you have now much more online interaction with people. How are your clients feeling about working on Zoom?
well, from personal experience. So when I first had the head injury, that's when I knew I was going to have to close my studio, my brick and mortar studio. I started to bring a lot more things online, and at that point, I was doing the book project and doing some other courses online that really helped me. Just with setting intentions, visualizations, a lot of things that really set me up for healing later. So I'm talking personally right now, but so looking back on mine, I was definitely very stubborn. And at one point, I remember I was, in a course where it was an hour of Zoom every day. And stubborn
Oh,
meaning
wow.
I would do it no matter what. Whereas maybe in hindsight, I could have maybe paced a little bit better and realized, hey, if things are too stacked up with symptoms today, maybe I should just catch the replay. Instead, I was a little bit too hard on myself. So I would say when it comes to, be able to take a step back and prioritize, you still have to prioritize and pace and understand what places fill you up with good energy, and it's kind of worth it versus where you do need to take a step back. So and I would say so now up to speed to now, so I've been doing stuff online since like 2018, and I would say it's always the variety of, how you're doing and how things are fitting in. When it comes to, I have a lot of people in my online programs. One is called Breathe into Calm. So that's for anyone. But my other one, Healthy Brain and Optimal Posture, is specific to people with post-concussion. And on that, I just made it very, knowing where I had come from, there's a variety of, if you want to read something through a PDF, if you want to only listen to the audio file, or if you are at that point where you want to be able to dive into like the live group coaching calls. So there's still, because of knowing where I came from, I really am into like offering them whatever works for them, because I don't want to be the person that's trying to force them to, spend all day online when their brain just is not ready for that, right? So I would say our course, we're really into, still you want to pace and you want to really be aware of how you're feeling. So maybe it's not the same expectations of you must be here at this time, show up, right? There's a lot more leeway to how you're feeling in that. And then everyone's very aware that, if it is a day that we are having a group coaching call, really be mindful of what you're doing that day and the day after. So, you're not stacking a bunch of meetings on a day that you have, or maybe if you have a big coaching call, maybe that's the day that you have your leftovers and you're not then also stacking on trying to read a recipe and follow instructions, right? So really being aware of what your triggers are, what things flare you up, and then play around with, not wasting all those spoons on those activities on the day that you're having to show up and do that kind of thing. But even with last year, I mean, changing everything with people bringing things more online, but stacking on all the other extra duties that we had, any of us that are parents that suddenly had to read instructions on how to homeschool, with quotations, homeschool our children, like that was a lot in
I was
itself.
lucky, Lisa. I had a grade 12 student and a fourth year university student, my children.
Okay, so
And
they
both
were,
of them were very well. They did very well themselves, just getting their schedule, working on their computers. And even though some of their friends were like, I couldn't do a thing, some kids couldn't get motivated even with the help, and others,
yep.
they did really
Well,
well.
and the social aspect, I mean, the social aspect of missing that social interaction and not being able to see your friends. I'm sure the issues, I have not 7 and 9 and almost 7 and 9, sorry. And I'm forecasting the birthdays here. And so, yeah, totally different issues than the battle of not socially interacting. And right, I'm sure that must have been really difficult and really hard on families to try to get the message through to teenagers about, staying in your own bubble and still just trying to tackle any mental health issues and
Yeah,
anxiety and
it's really
depression. And
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I wanted to add something to what you were saying earlier. You mentioned that in one of your courses, you give them the option of just the audio version. And that's one of the suggestions I have for when people need to go on group Zoom calls. If they could just do the audio version,
Mm-hmm.
or even don't do a Zoom call, do a phone call. Our brains, we're used to when we do a phone call, we are just focusing on what we're hearing and we're taking cues from tone of voice. Whereas automatically when we're doing something visually, our brain's like, okay, now I need to take cues from physical. So if you do your calls as often as you can just on the phone, then your brain just sort of zooms into that audio information, and it can block out the visual because it's not meant to be focusing on the visual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something else I'd like to add that's it's also in the video, but I'm going to add to it right now is I'm looking at you on a screen and there's a little camera, but I have 3 monitors. So I have 2 monitors here and then 1 monitor down here. When I was setting up the video for people, I'd say, okay, this is what you need to do before you even watch this video is set up your work environment, because everything around you, and I'm looking at it now, the sides here, I've got shelves, I've got papers, I have shelves above me that have things on them. All of this, we have focal vision and we have peripheral vision. And everything that's in our peripheral vision, if you don't have a brain injury, it's a lot easier to block that out and focus in without even paying attention. But what I found, many of our clients, they can't block out that peripheral vision. So it's overwhelming looking at the screen, trying to do the Zoom call with everything else that's going on around it. So I've actually put a black sheet on my back wall in the office because it had maps and bulletin boards. I can't work with all this visual information going on around me. So what we can recommend to people to reduce Zoom fatigue is to reduce the peripheral vision fatigue that's adding to the Zoom fatigue. So sit yourself in a place where you don't have all of this stuff around you. And when I was recording the video, I looked around my desk and I was going, okay, I'm a perfect example of what not to do. It's just stuff is everywhere. It's organized, but there's too much to look at. So you can reduce your visual fatigue, so I'll call it visual fatigue and visual overwhelm, by reducing the amount of things within your visual field of vision. So that's a really good tip that people might not even think about. It's not just what you're looking at forward, it's all the other things that your eye's collecting.
Definitely.
So
one thing I have a big problem with is I can't even watch Facebook Lives, or if someone's in my screen where they have a ceiling fan. If I see that ceiling fan going and oh, good Lord, I can't even, I'm out. Can't do it. It's really, really distracting.
Lisa, that is flicker. And that flicker is like the #1 trigger to visual stress. So just for those of you who haven't,
we did do a previous episode all about that. Back in, go back to, in Concussions Anonymous on YouTube.
Visual stress is the hyperactivation of the visual cortex in the presence of triggering visual information. The visual cortex back here, the information that's coming in through the eyes, once it's received by the brain, if the brain is easily hyperactivated, which is in the case of people with concussions, migraines, learning difficulties, a lot of neurological and neurodevelopmental conditions have this sensitivity to light and movement and flicker, and that fan, that's flicker, but so is a computer screen as it refreshes. So flicker of the computer screen is adding to Zoom fatigue. And when you're scrolling and the text is moving up the page, that's flicker as well. So the movement of people moving on the screens, you've got maybe 8 screens up and you're doing
definitely. If when people do their walk and talks, again, I just got to tune out.
So those are all visual triggers, and they're all little visual triggers. While you're trying to focus, you're looking, not only are you looking at a light, which is a screen, you're looking at all that movement on the screen. So again, another reason to, I think this is one of the suggestions I had in the video, is put a towel over the screen until you really need to look at somebody. Because just closing your eyes, the light is still coming in, it's still being received, and it's still flickering. So blocking the screen off with like a small piece of cardboard or something like that, unless you need to look, will help extend, you said spoons, I call it cognitive dollars. You'll have more cognitive dollars to spend on thinking if you reduce the amount of triggers that your brain is receiving. So clean up the visual environment, block the screen if you can, reduce as many sources of flicker and movement that are in your visual field, because that flicker is going to trigger you. Those are some of the top suggestions.
I always tell my clients as well, when we're doing any of our group, right now in our Breathe into Calm program, that when we do have the group coaching calls, have a notebook by you, because again, so that if you jot down, if you have a question, if you have a response, sometimes again, just that, the planning of your response, if it's something that it's an interactive or Q&A, having your notebook handy so that, you're not forgetting your points or your questions that you want to ask, because it can be really fatiguing to try to keep track of listening, watching. If you have, many of us use ring lights or lighting. We always talk about our lighting and lashes. And having that light, those distractions. Going back to communication, I've always said another great app that really, really helped me was Voxer, because you don't have to do that back and forth telephone conversation. It's like a walkie-talkie app. So it's a really great way to communicate with the people that you really want to stay close with, but maybe you don't have the energy to set a time to get on the phone with them, or, if it's hard to go with the flow or whatnot. I find that's a really good one.
It's actually not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that Zoom fatigue has it's named now, because before that, people with concussions and head injuries, when they would tell their family or their coworkers or their bosses that I'm having a lot of difficulty with my screen, the things that they could fix, like display settings and things, did not do enough to help, and people just didn't believe them that,
Mm-hmm.
come on, get back on the computer. So unfortunately that would happen, but now we actually have a word. We can call it screen intolerance, or we can call it Zoom fatigue. People get it now because there's enough um, news, media, articles, stories, people sharing on Facebook that Zoom fatigue is a real thing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's even worse for people who have concussions, but people who don't are starting to experience it as well, and then can empathize, right? We can empathize that, yes, I get it. It is really difficult. Well, their breaking point was so much sooner than ours, but that it gives a sense of understanding for those of us who might need a reminder of how difficult it is for people with head injuries and concussions.
Definitely. And not that we should ever care what other people think about us. But, if you're having to show up with your big blue blockers on, that's okay, right? If you're having to show up with your tinted lenses, but you're on a call with people that have no concept of head injury, brain injury,
Right.
and the things that, it's okay. Like, pat yourself on the back for the fact that you're showing up and you're even trying to be productive and positive and contribute, right? Sometimes we need to cheer for ourselves a little bit more and realize what it's taken for us to get to this point where we are able to show up and contribute, whether it's to work or socially or whatever, because it can be easy to just isolate and, not even try to participate in any of these things. So the times that you can really get in there and uh, contribute and be on a call like that, take the time to be proud of yourself for the baby steps and the big steps that you're able to get through.
I'm going to mention, I mentioned the desk area, but also I'm just going through my presentation here. The Society of Optometrists, or the Canadian Association of Optometrists, recommends something called the 20-20-20 rule. So it's 20 minutes, then take a break, and take 20 seconds, so you can sing your hand washing song,
Mm-hmm.
look away from the computer at something in the distance. If you're looking, I mentioned earlier, too much near time. If you're
Mm-hmm.
looking in the near area too much, you can actually cause, it can be temporary, but distance vision problems. Your distance vision cannot work, it may not work as well as it did because you're overworking the near vision. So the 20-20-20 rule is every 20 minutes, look for 20 seconds at something 20 feet or further in the distance. And pick something natural. Pick a plant. Look out your window at a tree off in the distance. Something natural, something green, even if it's a
Mm-hmm.
picture. There's some research we reference in the video as well, that research was done showing that even just looking at a picture of something in nature can calm the brain. So when you clean up your desk area and you take all these visual things away, make sure to add plants, whether they're fake or not, or pictures of forests, or find your perfect place and put a picture there. It actually calms your brain just to look at that. So that can really help counteract the Zoom fatigue by giving you that 20-second break. Now, what I also suggest is at that time, get up and stretch and move around, because what happens is when we're sitting here at our desks all the time, we're tense. We get our muscle, that mouse knot, we call it at the back.
Posture. It's all
Yeah,
about
that
posture.
posture.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a bad idea to consider that 20-second beat to pause, get up, stretch, move around, and look off in the distance to relax your visual system and to unclench your body.
Those are great
That's
tips.
a
That's
good Zoom
really,
fatigue,
yes.
um, I guess, reducer.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful.
Yeah, mention
And
talk about the posture, because honestly, looking at a screen and getting tense is going to cause you to be
oh,
stressed.
totally. It exacerbates any neck issues, any back issues. So always with posture, being able to think of that string on top of your head, lengthening you up, opening across your collarbones. Breathing exercises are very helpful. If you're already going into a call feeling a little bit of anxiety, doing some quick breathing exercises just to get that inner calm and peace goes so far, as well as taking the time to visualize. So if you have, a big meeting coming up that's a little bit longer than you would normally be on, or just has to take more energy and resources, take the time daily to visualize that call, that meeting, whatever it is, going smoothly, and that the next day you are feeling fantastic. There's so much to be said for spending time visualizing, meditating on our health, visualizing that we are getting better every day, that our brain is healing every day. The minute you have the negative thoughts, replace them. We have to break these patterns of I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, right? We've got to dig deep in ourselves sometimes to really be able to see those baby steps and keep going. And as I said, just visualize the next call that you have that maybe you've been nervous about before. Try to spin it in your mind to all the positive things, and how you're going to, how amazing you're going to feel after you've accomplished that, and you're still feeling fine, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other things I can say to help with Zoom fatigue. So I mentioned just briefly adjusting the brightness. The problem with adjusting the brightness too low is that you now have to strain to see. It's kind of like when people wear dark sunglasses, the light, they're very sensitive to light, but they put these dark sunglasses on and now they're straining to see. So you're solving one problem and causing another one. So one of the suggestions we have is don't just change the brightness, change the type of light coming off your screen. Some people try the FLux, which takes it to a cool to a warm screen color, so more of a peachy yellow. That doesn't work for everybody, and it is probably the least color chosen by our clients, is that yellowy, peachy orange. Most of our clients are more within green turquoise, blue, purple, sort of that whole section. Rarely ever just blue, but definitely less of those warm tones. And you can adjust the color of your computer screen using software. For Apple, in the display accommodations, there is an option for color filter. So you can do it on your phone, your tablet, and your computer. You can actually put a filter on the screen. So don't reduce the brightness, change the color coming off the screen. And that way you're going to be less triggering, you're triggering your brain less. If you don't have a Mac product or an Apple product, the Samsung Android 9 on Samsung, you can find that in accommodations for your phones, but there's software as well. So at opticom.ca, we do have screen tinting software, and it allows you to change your full screen to a color that you're more comfortable with. It starts off with 10 different color options, and you can go through those 10 to find the one that you're most comfortable with, and then you can fine tune it to like whatever 256 the Windows color spectrum. So that's a really good thing if you're on screens, is to work with changing the light coming off the screen, and you can do that with these filters.
We'll link that in the comments below and in the description in YouTube for sure. We'll pop any of those links in there. I'll also put my link for my current program, which is Breathe into Calm. It's amazing to just be able to access breathing exercises to get that inner calm. So I'll link that in, and I'll link in my other course, Healthy Brain and Optimal Posture. And you are going to definitely let us know when the video's out. We're going to share that out.
I think the best thing to do is Visual Stress Canada. That's the association that's done the video with Brain Injury for Brain Injury Canada. We're going to be setting up a link in there where you can go and sign up. You'll get an email alert for the video when it's released, and then all the material, all the supporting material and the research and links and worksheets and things like that will all be at visualstress.ca. We're not just sure where the hashtag is, but it'll be, or the hash is, it'll be visualstress.ca / Brain Injury Canada, maybe. We're not sure what it is, but we will, if people go to visualstress.ca, they can sign up right away to get on the contact list, and then we'll let people know.
Okay. And a quick tip everyone can do right away, right today, is set that reminder, as Karen said, about the 20 your rule
2021
there.
rule.
Set that reminder to be doing that. And if you need any help with any posture exercises, I'm your girl. For Pilates and posture exercises, for just that daily movement at your desk. I think I've got another video on my page, my YouTube channel, Lisa Khera, which is optimal movements at your computer desk. So I can link that into our YouTube channel as well, Concussions Anonymous. And remember, as we said, to definitely like and share this out. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do. We'll definitely have some more episodes
Yes, we have
coming to
about
you
3.
with our, yeah, we have 3 that we had done previously that'll be up. And they're still on my Facebook page, in Balance Pilates Studio. Yeah, but I just wanted to thank you so much for meeting up today and being
Thanks
able
for pushing me.
oh, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for. And, but yeah, no, it was amazing to see you. And I'm so glad
Yeah,
that
you too.
you got that video out for everyone. It's such great resources.
Yeah, now
And
this is the
yes,
first of hopefully many. So what I'm going to be going out with, and we had talked about this earlier, I'm going to go out and get input from people. What do you want to see? What type of training? What type of information? Do you want me to walk you through a full visual ergonomic assessment of your home and office? Those are the types of things that I'm going to be listing and hopefully getting input on what the next thing we should do is. So I'll be
oh,
reaching
that's
out.
fantastic. Well, I'll be sharing out all of that stuff for you because I know how needed it is. And yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Remember to share this out and let us know if you'd like to be a guest on Concussions Anonymous, if you'd like to share your story. And you can always sign up to both of our email lists to just stay current on what offerings we have going on and different resources. So mine is at imbalancepilates.ca. And Karen's?
You've got Opticom, OPTICALM.ca, or the new visualstress.ca, which is the association. And we'll be doing a lot more of the outreach and advocacy and education there.
Good stuff. And I hope to see some of you in Breathe Into Calm. So let me know if you're looking to get into that next live program. And yes, I hope everyone has a wonderful summer, wonderful day. Enjoy
Heat
it.
wave.
Yeah, heat wave. I know we're just heading to the beach. I can hear some mamas out there. Everyone's ready to go to the beach. So
All right. Well, you have a wonderful day, Lisa. Thank you so much for getting
thank
this
you.
connected. And to all of those listening, I hope we helped you out a bit today.
For sure. Well, have a great day, friend, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.